Hi, and welcome to the channel. We're going to call this channel Give It a Try with Rye, and I am your host, Ryan. So what this channel is going to be about is just giving things a try, doing things yourself, figuring out how to do things. I do a lot of things on my own, a lot of different projects. I'll research, I'll build or remodel or install or swap out different stuff. And so I want to kind of bring you along on the journey. It's not just going to be a how-to channel, but really it's going to be a lifestyle, and you'll follow me and eventually my family through the different projects we're doing here around the house. And as I've thought about it, I thought, man, I have done a ton of stuff around the house. You can make some really good content on YouTube. People might learn from it. I might learn from the comments, etc. I'm going to start filming some of this stuff. And just for example, some of the things I've done, here over the last 3 years or so, remodeling the kitchen, building the deck, installing a flagpole, a basketball hoop behind us that you see there, and a ton of other things. So that's what this channel is going to be about, is just following me on some of the projects and DIY things I do, and just giving things a try. And the biggest thing I'm going to give a try here is a YouTube channel. So ultimately, as we give these small projects a try, the bigger theme behind the channel is giving this YouTube a try. So anyway, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're all here. If you would, go ahead and like and subscribe this video. Share it with your friends. That'll really help things get going. I'm sure this first video will be a big learning experience. I promise they'll get better over time as I learn more. But follow me along on today's project. And what we have going on today is we are replacing the starter on my Yamaha Kodiak 700. It's a 2018. I'll tell you how I got to the point of determining the starter needed replaced. The obvious sign was it wouldn't start. When you think about the components needed to start the vehicle, it's really just a battery and a starter. Now, don't quote me on that. I know that's probably not everything. Just talk about the main components of the battery and the starter. So, called my dad. He's had a four-wheeler for a long time. I said, Dad, how often have you had to change out your battery? He's like, never. I've had it for 15, 20 years. Never had it. Like, how often do you charge it? He's like, never. So kind of when I started with the battery, I thought, man, that might not be the issue. But I went ahead and started there. I replaced the battery, went down to Advanced Auto Parts, looked up the model and the year, and got an ATV battery that fit. It started up after that. But then eventually it just, it wouldn't start. I'd have to charge the battery. I'd have to put a jump starter on it. And I thought, man, this has got to be more than the battery. So I started doing some research, and I thought about the other components involved in starting the four-wheeler. And I thought, okay, well, the starter's the obvious other one. So I started finding forums on the year and model of my ATV that said there was an issue with the glue inside the housing that held the magnets in place, and the glue was failing, and the magnets were moving around and changing positions, and the starters would fail, and the ATV wouldn't start. So I thought, what? Now that I think about it, about a year ago, I did notice that the starter sounded different. It wasn't bad enough that it made me immediately think the starter was bad, but it definitely sounded different. And so once I started seeing these forums and testing my second battery, and it was testing out fine, I thought, okay, it's definitely got to be the starter. So ordered a new starter online from Partzilla. Came in yesterday. It is an OEM starter, and here is the part number from Yamaha. Cost me about 160 bucks, maybe a little bit more with shipping, but the starter came in. Comes with two mounting holes with 10 millimeter screws that go in the mounting holes, and a screw on the back for the positive terminal, and then the ground goes into one of the screws on that. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about taking the old one out, putting the new one in, and firing up the four-wheeler and see if it starts afterwards. So come along on the journey with me. Again, thanks for joining this new channel, and let's give this project a try. All right, so here's the close-up of the starter. Again, pretty simple. 2 mounting screw holes here. Positive terminal goes on the back here. The ground wire goes here, and then the little gear here to start the engine. There is also a rubber seal here. We will put a little bit of lube on that just to make sure that it slides in nicely and doesn't get torn up in the install process. All right, so this is the right side of the four-wheeler, and you can access parts of the starter from this side. I did take this panel off earlier, but I found that really I just needed the one panel, the left panel off. But this is what it looks like before it's off. And I did already take this one off here, so you can see inside of here, inside of the engine compartment, is where the old starter that I've already taken off was. Okay. So right here is where this little spindle goes into to start the engine. And we'll get that lined up and inside there. Then you can see back here, there's a mounting hole there. Get this out of the way here. And there's a mounting hole there, and then that's the negative battery wire. And then that's the positive battery wire back there. It's got a little rubber boot there with a connector here that goes on to the back of the starter. So slide it out right there like that, and we will grab our new starter. And here's the back of that. Like I was talking, that is a 10mm nut there. So there is a little slot here, so you do want that connector on your positive wire to come out of that slot, and that's where we'll put the boot over this little plastic shield here, plastic housing. So let me get this in position, and then we'll get that wire on there and get it tightened up and see if we can get this slid in. All right, I grabbed a little quart of oil I had. I don't know which car this is for, but I'm just gonna grab a little bit of oil on my fingertip there, and we're going to put it around the rubber O-ring seal here. All right, so I'm gonna slide the starter in here. I'm gonna position it in such a way that I can get this wire on the back and get that boot and that nut slid over all the right things. So, all right, so the wire went on pretty well. I think I got it in a good position where I can get the nut on there. Get the nut started here with my fingers, and then we'll get the socket on it. All right, so I got it started with my fingers, so we'll jump in there with the wrench here, and we'll see if we can get that snug down. All right, so we got it on, so I'm gonna slip this boot over it. The boot will just help it keep clean and so forth. It's not so much waterproof, but really water and dirt resistant. So got that in. We'll back this lined up. There we go. All right, so we got it lined up, and now we just need to get it to a point to where the mounting holes line up with the holes in the engine block. here we go. So that kind of slid in real nice. Got those up, checking our cables to there. Now I did say something wrong earlier. The mounting screws are 8mm, not 10mm heads. So not a big deal, but just wanted to correct that there. All right, looks like that one is going in nicely. We will get the socket on that. All right. So get that first one started with my fingers. It's going in pretty easily. I'm using a deep socket on this. I did notice that a regular socket with the smallest extension I had was too much. So the deep socket was just the right length. So make sure you get your negative wire back on this side. It's on the right mounting bracket, facing it from this angle. Right mounting bracket hole. We'll get the socket in there. Those snug down. Probably should take my watch off for this. That's a Samsung Galaxy smartwatch. Maybe we'll do a review on that one day. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but I do work in IT, so probably get a few technology reviews in here on software and hardware and so forth. All right. So we got both those holes snugged up, or both those bolts snugged up, and we will, before we put the panel back on, we'll make sure it works. So I did have the negative wire, off while we did this, so let's go ahead and get that back on. And I'll just snug it up with a socket here. The Phillips head is getting kind of stripped out there, so that's tight, that's tight. All right, we did it. And if you remember earlier, I said the starter kind of sounded different about a year ago on the old starter. And yeah, that sounded great. I mean, that fired right up. The starter wasn't making that noise. It was kind of like a scraping noise, almost sounded like metal scraping. It's probably those magnets loose in there from the glue. But that seemed to do it. So let's give it another try here. Wow, that's fast too. I mean, it's probably been a year or two since my four-wheeler has started up that quickly. I mean, before it was kind of, several cycles. Now it's, half a second and it's firing right up. So one more try and we'll we'll call it a wrap on this video. All right, well, like I said, thanks for joining this first video, and if you would like, subscribe to the channel and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much.